Hello and welcome to another Demon 212 3DSWare review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at BitBoy Arcade, which if you've never played it before, it's probably because it only just came out last week in America, and I was gutted that I had to wait as long, but I was actually given a review copy, which I'm over the moon at, which is why I've got it a day before the European release. It comes out tomorrow for everyone else, and it's honestly one of those, if you like honest action, puzzle, arcadey type games, it's something you definitely want to look into. I adored the first BitBoy. There is follow-on to the story, but it's the same sort of story that all of the other Bplus games had, because it's all the same developer, obviously Bplus, and Bplus has actually went through a bit of a change since this game and the last one coming out. Now Bplus is one person, and it's actually that person right there, because he's done something incredibly special with the story, something that I don't think's ever been done before, and I'm struggling to find out why it hasn't been done before, because I think it's genius. But let's get into actually starting on with the game. At the start, you've got Construct, and then you can unlock Quick Run, and you can view your high scores on that. Quick Run just basically puts you on a random level, and you just play the game quickly. Construct mode is basically the campaign of the game. It's the meat and the potatoes, you know, it's whatever you want to call the girth of the game, essentially. And control-wise, it actually works really well. You've got the circle pad to move your camera around, which it's rare that you really need to do it, because the camera itself usually places itself perfectly for you to be able to see what's going on, which is why I don't understand complaints of people saying, how can you move and use the camera at the same time? Well, you don't actually need to do so, but even so, you can, because they work. And I actually think I prefer using the face buttons, because there's no diagonal movement. The best way you can have diagonal is to, for example, hold X and then keep tapping Y. And that will move you slightly diagonally. And it's because the game's designed around not so much two-dimensional properties, but it's very much up, down, left, right, you know, and that's why you only ever really need to move up, down, left, right. And why using the face buttons, because I think the D-pad on the 3DS system has always been a little finicky for me. I've never particularly been keen on it, and it was at the point with Street Fighter, a game where I would always use a D-pad with. When I got Street Fighter at launch, I had to force myself to use the circle pad earlier than intended, because I just couldn't manage the D-pad. So being able to use the face buttons for me, with the circle pad for the camera, is just perfect. But everyone's different. Some people might find it finicky, some people might complain, but it's just one of those things. Where I am at the moment, though, I suppose I should mention, is like the World Hub, essentially. It's got everything that you're going to need. It's got a load of information. You just stand on one of those eyes, and then Bernd starts speaking to you, because Bernd is the guy who makes the game, and that's who the little pixel face is. And it's actually got an hour's worth of Bernd and Kubi, who is the hero. It's got an hour's worth of speech from them too, so it has got quite an expansive story, considering the original game, the original BitBoy, was only an hour long. And I'll be honest, I was actually expecting another quick thrill game. You put it on, do very little, done, you just replay it for the high scores. And it is not like that at all. It's absolutely brilliant what's been done with it, because it expands on the original game in every way possible, whilst keeping the gameplay pretty much identical. So that's what I mean, that if you like the first game, you're gonna like this one, because it's just bigger, better, everything about it is amazing. You've got, when you go into worlds, you basically, for the first time, you start at phase 1, and then from there you can choose where you want to go. And every 5 phases is a new section, essentially, so I'm going to put phase 5 on so you can see what happens. But once you do 10 phases, you then get action stages, and they're completely different, and then there's boss stages, and I'll try my best to show all of this off, whilst at the same time not just wobbling on, because at the end of the day that's something that I'm unfortunately probably trademarked for, the wobbling on part. So here I am, and you might notice straight away that some enemies chasing us around, and there's a load of stuff going on. Basically, I am obviously the cube that you saw us playing as, called Kubi, and one of the cool things that you can do now is you can grip walls. So for example, obviously when the enemy's coming at us there, I died. But if I was quick enough, I could quickly jump down into the wall, hang on to it. There's no grip meter or anything, so at the end of the day, this isn't Metal Gear Solid, and it's not trying to be, which is probably just as well, because otherwise it would have a 2.5 hour cutscene that would be unskippable. And that is obviously a joke. I'm not having a quote the franchise at all. But it's just one of those things. You can now grip to the wall, you can move along it as well, and it's just something so simple that's been added that makes the gameplay a lot more strategic, and it means that you kind of get a second chance. And you may think that that's actually made the game easier. Well, it really hasn't. There is a parchment paper, and the parchments are kind of like an achievement system because there's 50 of them to get, and you unlock them by collecting those there, which are pixel flies, and there's 20 pixel flies to a level. There's 4,260 pixel flies to collect, which if you don't want to use a calculator, that is 213 levels, and there's actually 212 phases and then one very special level. So seeing as I'm 212, I'm quite happy with this number. I approve of that number. 212 phases sounds good to me. Some people might be saying, well, why didn't he just do it 210? But not me. I am not one of those people. I will not complain at the 212. So by going through the whole game, collecting all the pixel flies, you unlock a load of stuff. Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's just cool artwork, sometimes it's hints and tips. And the whole point to every level is to save your 7 friends, which you've got a timer there. And the timer is for bonus points only. It's not when you run out, that's it, you die. It's you've got to beat it in a certain time in order to get bonus points. You've then got how many lives you've got. You've then got how many people you've got to rescue and how many pixel flies are still left to collect. And the whole point is to go through the entire game, saving all of your friends, collecting all the pixel flies, and trying to get as high a score as possible. And you may think that once you beat it all once, that's it, you're done. But some levels, you're going to have to force yourself to not collect all the pixel flies, because you might be going for a good high score, and you might think that it's better to actually have a timer, and other times, you're going to want to do everything. And there is a lot of replayability simply because of the high score nature, which you can share your scores over Miiverse. It actually says on the whole site, and as I embarrassingly had to admit to the developer when he gave us this, was the fact that I've never ever used Miiverse. It's one of those things that I keep meaning to do and I never get around to doing it. As you might have noticed, walking into the enemies once you've collected all your friends, you can actually then kill them because you become invincible, and you get a load of bonus points for killing all the enemies. But again, it becomes a scenario of, do you have the time to do that, or would you be better off just beating it in a certain time? Because there, I ran out of time, I didn't get a time bonus or anything, but killing all the enemies got me a load of extra points. As that was the 5th level, which I did say, or the 5th phase, then this comes up, and this is the story of the game. Basically, I don't want to give any spoilers away, so I won't say why this happens, but Kubi is actually able to talk to Bernd, and the whole point is, he's the developer, he's the hero. And I've never seen this happen before in any game, and Kubi is almost like the world's most annoying critic, because this section here, it's just like, why are all the levels green? Well, it's a garden, Kubi. And gardens are green. Well, I want more than green levels. So from here on in, you get more backgrounds than just green. Kubi starts to complain about not having enough action at one point. So he goes, well, fine, then I'll put new things in. They're action phases. And they're what I said you get from phase 10 onwards. You get like 10 normal phases and 10 action phases per world, and it all adds up. There's 60 levels per, well, I say a world, but I suppose area is the right thing. You get 60 levels per area, half of them are action, half of them aren't. You then get another 10 levels, which are just the boss levels, and obviously you multiply that by 3 to get you 210 phases, and then there's the 3 special areas, 2 of which are phases, and 1 of which is a very special level indeed. And I don't want to spoil that for anyone, but it is quite cool. And it's something that makes me wonder what sort of game we're going to see next from Bplus. So that's pretty much how the game breaks up and breaks down, and it's why it's so much bigger and grander in every way than the original Pip-Boy, which, as I say, did take about an hour to beat, because even though there were quite a few levels, you could do them in no time at all, whereas this, it's a lot harder. You've got to have a lot more thought. The amount of times these enemies just trap us, and all these ones do here is the turn right. At every possible opportunity, the turn right. And it's something so simple that you'd think, I'll be able to do that dead easy, because I know how to avoid them. And next thing you know, like this, you're trapped. And it happens all the time. From just doing the first 20 phases, I think I died 60 to 70 times. I could not believe how difficult it was. Now, you can, once you actually die a load of times, it does bring up the option where you can hit start and you can go into easy mode. And I'll be honest, there has been times when I've contemplated it. And then there's been other times where I thought, no, I'm going to beat this damn thing my way. I'm going to beat it hard. I don't care. It was something that I thought I may get to the final phase and I may think, right, I just want to see the clocking sequence, just let me do it easy. But I want to beat it on hard. That was my whole ambition, and it's something that I'm glad that I did. So I suppose now I should very quickly exit out before I do actually run out of things to say, so I can show off an action phase. And the action phase, it does change up completely how the game plays because, well, as you might notice, one's normal and one's action. And the action is basically abilities and power-ups, but it's not stuff you can collect and use infinitely or anything. It's stuff that you've got to strategically use and you only get a very limited use. And I've just exited out the world and now I need to let it load again, which is my own fault. There we go. That's what happens though if you hit down when you go into an area and it's phase 1. It doesn't go to the top of the phases because that's something that has screwed me over a little bit more than many times as I've hit down and I thought, oh, you idiot, why did you do that? So there we go. Phase 11, this begins the action phases, and I'm hoping phase 11 is the one that I remember it as, where it has everything. If not, then I might be doing more than one action phase. But basically, there's a jump block, and it's green, and by walking on the jump block, then it fires you somewhere on the stage. Some of them fire you a little bit, some of them fire you a huge amount. And if you land on an enemy, you'll kill it. There's then this rocket block, where if an enemy gets in your way, you'll kill it. And as you can see, it's also destroying blocks for me. And you can't, thankfully, it's not an infinite loop there. That's why I've shown that off, because obviously there's 2 rocket blocks. So it's not a case of you get on that one and then it keeps firing you back and forth, because that would be pretty shoddy. And thankfully that is not there. But at the same time, I was thinking, I've got to try it really. Just if it happens, it'd be something that I could have a bit of a laugh about. But no. He's actually made the game well. Damn. Right. These are the jump blocks though. And I do believe this is the phase that I thought it was, so I should be able to show off the final one, which is a blue block, and the blue block is basically a bomb. And once you get it, you get a few seconds, I think it's about 3 to 5 seconds from when I was doing a quick time, and then you explode. And obviously you don't explode and you die, you just explode and you either blow up a brick, just like when the rockets are there, which are them over there, or you can blow up enemies with it, as long as you're careful with it. So here there's an enemy coming my way, and I was just in front of him enough, so I blew him up. Obviously, if he was coming much faster, then I might have to keep moving out of his way to be able to blow him up, because if he touches you, then you still die. It's not a case of he touches you, you instantly explode. So don't activate that and run headlong into enemies like John Rambo. It's not going to work. It's not going to end well at all. You're going to lose a life. Which, losing lives is actually, to be fair, something I should now be doing to show off another cool feature, because it is incredibly cool that someone's done this. And it's one of those, at the same time, if everyone done this, it would stop being special, and it would probably start to annoy because you'd start to run out of coins. Now, you may be wondering, what sort of coins? Well, this is an arcade game after all. That's the whole point. It's BitBoy Arcade. And everyone who has had a 3DS for longer than a day should be aware that you earn coins by walking, or by shaking the system or anything like that, if anything that you can do really, because I mean, at the end of the day, not everyone might have the ability to go out walking, so it's not something that can particularly hold you back from earning coins. So once you lose all of your lives, it comes up, do you want to continue? And you get an arcade machine, and you have to put in your play coins to actually continue playing the game. 2 coins per credit. And I think that's absolutely brilliant, because I've had 300 coins now for months, as I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this has had, because nothing uses them. The closest we've had to something using them properly would be Animal Crossing, where you use them for fortune cookies, and even then, once you'd had every single item from the fortune cookie, which was sped up by trading boards, that was it. You never needed to spend them again, you never needed to use them. So it's nice to have a game where actually you'll think, I can earn 10 coins a day even. I was going to say 10 coins a game, 10 coins a day, and you can be able to basically use them on this game. And again, if every game did it, then it would start to annoy, because you'd probably get to the point where you'd thinking, well, I've got 7 games that I wanted to play a day. all for half an hour bursts or something. Maybe you had a day off and you were just in this sort of gaming mood, you know, just like an action platformer or something like that, an action puzzler. And you'd then start realising that you're actually spending more coins than you can earn, and it would start to annoy you. But as this is the only game that's done it so far, then it's the sort of thing that it basically means you can have 5 continues per day, even if you don't have a reserve. And that is something that's incredibly cool, because that's going to last you a long time. Well, I say it's going to last you a long time. In much later levels, it's probably going to last you about 5 minutes as you start screaming, "Why are they so hard? They just turn right." It's just one of those things, though. So that's pretty much all I can say about that. I've mentioned the action phases, I've mentioned the regular phases, I've mentioned the coins and that, I've mentioned the parchment achievements. I think pretty much the only thing that I have mentioned that I haven't been able to show off is what I'm going to do now, which are basically the boss levels. And there's 2 types of boss levels. So if I go on to... oh, it's not going to let me choose because I forgot the bosses don't let you do it. You have to play the boss phases as boss phases. So boss phases, though, you get 10 of them overall, and the first 5 are totally different to the last 5. The last 5 are actually a proper boss fight, I suppose is the right way to put it. The whole point of them is you have to collect the pixel flies in order to unlock the abilities, so like the bombs, the rockets and things, and you've got to then go through the level where you get to the very end where there's a boss and you get into the rockets once you've collected everything, and that hurts him, and you do that for 5 phases and that kills him. These boss phases, these ones, just basically you're getting chased by something here, and you've got to get to the very end very quickly, and then once you're invincible, you can kill the boss, you can go back and collect all the pixel flies that you had missed, or you can just go straight on to the next phase. And it works really well, because it means that the bosses are never going to get tiresome, because instead of doing 10 phases of just that, it pretty much picks the pace up and the tempo right away, because you straight away think, well, after I've done 5 of these, I'm starting to feel like I could move on to something else. Well, that's good news, because you are moving on to something else. And then it works well. It never overstays its welcome, is I suppose the way that I'm trying to put it. And that's pretty much the boss phases in a nutshell. And as you might have seen, I am blitzing through some of these levels quite quickly, so you may be thinking that even though there's 210, it's not going to last you a while. Well, you've got to remember a couple of things. One, I've been playing this all night in preparation of being able to do the review, so I have actually started to get a lot better at the game. 2, it's obviously levels I've played before. And 3, these are the early ones, because I don't want to show anything too late and ruin anything for anyone. So these are I suppose, technically the easy ones, and trust me, some of them really, really don't feel that easy. Musically, the game is fantastic. It's just like any and all Bplus games. It's something that sounds familiar, but at the same time it's new, and I always like how they manage to do that, and even more so now that it is just Bernd on his own. I think it works perfectly. And oh, I've just realised I forgot one of the friends, so I'm going to get crushed. Yep, so musically it sounds great, and I wish I could let you listen to it like I see on a lot of 3DS games and vids, but trying to get the balance between volume and the camera is just a nightmare. Sometimes it comes off that I can't even be heard, which for some people would probably be a plus. Other times it comes off that it's just sounds terrible quality, and I never want to do that, especially never want to do those ones, because then people might think, oh well, that actually sounds really bad, and when a lot of the time it's just that I've not found a right way to display it properly. Graphically, as you can see, it's nice enough. It's not going to win any graphic awards, because obviously it's not going to look like any of the big name games and all that, but considering what it is, it's just basically an old school arcade game. It looks perfect for what it is, and I think it works really well, and I love the rainbow theme all the way through it, because there is the whole point is the 7 friends are one of the colours of the rainbows, and then there's these boss levels here where you go through the whole rainbow spectrum, and it looks really well. It's very bright and colourful in a lot of ways, and it works. It really does. I'm honestly, though, struggling to think of anything else I can actually say about the game, and you may be thinking, well, that's because I've done an awfully long vid, but that's because there is a lot to say. For such a little, small indie game, it's actually been completely blown me away, simply because of how expansive it is, and I never expected this, and I probably should have, but when you played the first Bit-Boy, then you probably think, oh, it's just going to be a little small thing that I can play for high scores, and it really isn't. It's just massive. the score list, I have mentioned it, but on every level, you basically, it tots up your scores, and as you go through, you get the high score, which comes up at the bottom of the screen, and there's also medals to get from that. I suppose they're the only major thing that I've not got around to mentioning. The fact that there are medals to collect, as well as all the pixel flies and everything, and you get the medals from scoring over 300,000 on a area, which is, a fears section, to be fair, which just again adds more replayability to it, and that's what I was meaning, that sometimes you will have to decide what's best to go for a high score or what's best to just go for playing the level and collecting things, and it's because you do actually get the medals for the high score, and it, as I say, it just adds yet more to the game. It adds yet more in the ways of collectibles and things. I've just been rushing through these levels though, not collecting all the pixel flies, because I'm hoping to at least be able to show off one of the action boss fights. That's why I was also trying to think of other things to see, and then I realised I hadn't actually mentioned the scoring system, other than you can view your high scores. You can obviously replay areas as well to collect everything, as you might have guessed. I've never really said it, but I've mentioned and said things that imply it. Well, you can actually replay them. You can obviously choose from certain phases at any point, and it's got a really cool save system that it's instant auto save. Basically, you can switch it off at any point, and you can go straight back to that point when you boot it up again, which is very impressive, because how many 3DS games do that? The PSP and the Vita's had a system like that for quite some time, but only when the game, when the system dies. So it's obviously, it always meant that if you were running out of power and it died, then you didn't have to worry about losing any progress. And that's where this is going to come in best. While it can be used every day, because you can switch the game on every day and you can go exactly back up to where you were, which is great, probably the most amazing feature of it is simply that if your battery's about to die and you've just done 19 phases and you're up to the final one and it dies, then don't worry, it should save for you, unless something severely went wrong, which so far has yet to happen to me. The one thing I can say about little problems with the game, because it does have a couple little things. The story, as you might have seen there, the portals, they can't be skipped even once you've seen them before, and while the story's really good and you want to watch it the first time, the second, third, fourth time you mightn't want to watch it every time. You know, there's sometimes with a lot of games you'll want to watch it, sometimes you'll not want to watch it, you'll just want to skip it. So it would be nice if that could be skipped, purely for when you're trying to replay and do high score runs and that. There's, when you complete a phase and you get all all your friends and all the bit flies and that, and you become invincible, by collecting all the bit flies once you've collected all your friends, it comes up thank you, so you know you've collected them all. Every now and then though, that doesn't seem to work. Now it's not a huge problem at all, because right there it tells you how many you've got, so you can look at that. But the same thing happens with the enemies. Every now and then it doesn't come up perfect once you've killed them all, so because there's no meter or anything on the bottom telling you how many enemies are left, then that is when it becomes a little bit of a problem, because you're then rushing for time but also trying to make sure that you've seen everything. But again, it's not a huge problem. It doesn't happen every time. It seems to be certain levels where it's happened to us more than others, and it's never been a massive problem. But it is something that I thought I should probably mention, because at the end of the day, no game is perfect. This one comes incredibly close to being perfect for what it is. It's one of the best indie titles I've played in ages, and it's one of my favourite action arcade games, action puzzlers. It's whatever you want to call it really, because it's a bit of everything. Because obviously the puzzle nature's there with being able to do certain things at certain times. There is one of these boss levels where it is so insanely difficult, and you're thinking, how the hell do I do that? And when the solution hits you, you're just like, I can't believe I've been so dumb. It's so simple, and it's just something you have to remember about the enemies. And once you remember that, then you've pretty much completed the level immediately. You just have to take your time with it. So I think that is now everything I wanted to show off, everything I wanted to mention. I think that's everything that's been done is done now. So to very quickly sum up, if you liked the original BitBoy, if you played it and you liked it, definitely get this one. You will absolutely love it. If you weren't keen on it, then ask yourself why you weren't keen, because it's very possible I've mentioned something that may well have fixed the game for you, and you may well think, well, I wasn't too keen on it because of how short it was. Well, you don't have to worry about this one being short at all. It is massive, and if you've never played a Bplus game before, then this is probably a great one to look into, because while some of the story does follow on throughout all of the Bplus games, Platch and Twist and Paint into Nicky Rock'n'Ball, into Bitboy, into this Bitboy. Obviously, I don't know anything about Bitman, because that was only released in Japan, unfortunately. But while the story does kind of follow on with little bits and bobs, it's nothing so deep that you'd have to have played everyone. You might well want to now go and play everyone, you never know. If you've got access to a Wii U, you can buy them on the Wii store still. But it's nothing that you need to know, because it does do a good job filling you in. It tells you little bits that like you might need to know about this, that and the other, and it's something that I think it is great for newcomers as well as old school fans to the franchise and to the developer itself. So yeah, I think that is everything I can mention. I've just realised how long this vid is, and I was worried it was going to be a long one, because there really is just so much to mention about it, and I wanted to make sure that at least someone mentioned everything in detail, because sometimes Bplus can get a bit of a bad rap from certain reviewers, and I think they judge them instantly without even playing the game. I think it's a case of they'll mention one or two things and then just spend the rest of the review slating them, when I'll be honest, I've put about 20 hours into this game already, and I've not found any of the problems that certain sites have mentioned, and I've noticed as well that it is only the one or two that are the usual suspects that have actually had a go at the game, whereas the rest have all been glowing reviews, and I'm thinking, I know why that is, because it is a fantastic game, so it's well worth taking a look. So there we go then, that's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions about the game that I didn't answer in the vid or that hasn't been answered in the comments, then feel free to ask and I'll help if I can. Also, if you did find it helpful, don't forget to check out my channel, because there's plenty more like this up there, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more to come as well. So until next time, this has been Demon212, signing off.